Good evening, everyone. A new season of No Credentials Required starts right now. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are presented proudly by Billy Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. And to my right, a man who got a little buck wild and crazy at New Year's. Well, that's a lie. He was pretty quiet. Dustin Henry. Dustin, how are you doing tonight? Happy New Year.
I'm doing all right. Happy New Year to you. And new intro is great. The new song for when that drum beat kicked in, I thought I was going to hear "We Only Come Out at Night." I thought it
You
was coming.
thought of Man
Man Eater. I thought it was. I was like, "Is this Man Eater right now?" It was pretty funny. But yeah, New Year's was low key. Happy New Year. How are you doing tonight? I'm ready to dive into football. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's going to be a big topic of discussion this week, but we're still gonna recap week
Yeah.
17.
Absolutely. My New Year was good, very quiet. I watched both college football semifinals, probably some of the best college football I've seen in a very, very long time. Two very good games. I'm a little jealous of my buddy Sean. He and his girlfriend went to the Peach Bowl
Oh
in
wow.
Atlanta. She's a big Georgia fan, so they
Oh
got
yeah.
tickets and they watched Georgia come back from certain doom and being carried out on a pillar at home, basically. So it was both were good games. I stayed at home. It was very quiet in a fair at home, just chilling, watching football, and that's pretty much it. So
That's
nothing
a
really special, nothing really big or special.
Yeah, that's a good way to ring in the new year. I think we're you and I, without giving it away, we are of an age where going out is not necessarily number one on our list for New
Yeah,
Year's. But I will say I've heard nothing but great things about those college football playoff games, and it almost got me to want to tune in because, as you know, I'm not really college guy, but every once in a while. I'm like, I probably shouldn't have missed that one. But instead, while I was bowling on Monday, I saw the Penn State Nittany Lions absolutely destroy.
yes,
Was it the Utes? They
yes.
were playing the
Utah,
Utes.
the Utah Utes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was supposed to be a better. It was supposed to be a much high scoring affair. I thought it was going to be high scoring, but apparently both defenses, in particular Penn State's, came to play. And you all, I don't know if you saw the run for that the next Saquon Barkley had pulled off
Oh no,
90
I
88-yard run. It was spectacular.
wow. I must have been throwing a strike when that happened. No, I don't know.
I'm going to take your word for it. So, before we continue with tonight's discussion, just want to remind you about our social media channels right down here: Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, and on YouTube, again, or at YouTube.com/ at NoCredsREQ. At NoCredsREQ. If you're watching on Facebook right now, smash that like button. Smash it good, but smash responsibly. Same thing on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook Live, smash that like button too. That way, the algorithms make sure that that they know about us. And as always, we want you to engage with the show. So I'm gonna, for the first time in 2023, I'm gonna play that
Here we
majestic
go.
sound. That's right, folks. Just a gentle reminder: engage with us during the show. Engage with us. We want to get your comments. We'll read them on the air if they're sufficiently awesome. So we got a lot to talk about. Also, on the audio side, subscribe to the podcast. We're actually moving our platform over to Megaphone. So we're not going to be on Spreaker. We're still going to be on Spreaker, but they're not going to be our host. We're going to be on Megaphone. But you can always also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to your podcast. Subscribe there. Also, if you can, rate, 5 stars is always preferred, and review if you can. If you leave a nice review, I might even read it on the air. So, Dustin, we got to get into our before we get into week 17. We have a recap of week 17. We got to talk about the status of Damar Hamlin, second from defensive back for the Buffalo Bills, who suffered a traumatic injury on the field of play on Monday night, where it was a very scary situation. I'm not gonna play any videos. We people have seen enough of that. What was your when that came up? What was your reaction to it? And we'll talk about some of the other reactions to it, and some of the outpouring of support that has come through for him since his accident happened. So, what was your reaction when you initially heard about the news, or you first saw it? If you watched it on TV, if you first saw it?
Well, first off, I have to say I've never been so happy that I missed a section of football in my life.
Yeah.
Because I was driving home from the bowling alley. I was hoping I was kind of hustling because I wanted to see like most of this game if I could, because I was getting ready for what we had hoped would be a very entertaining game. And I was listening to the first bit of the game on the radio as I was driving in the car. And when I got into my house and put my bowling ball away, turned on the TV, I saw all the players on the field. And I said to myself, what happened? And then obviously it became very clear of what happened. And he had to be, I just couldn't believe, because at first I thought, and I think what a lot of people thought, I just saw the crowd of players on the field and I said, oh no, somebody's got a head injury, took a very bad hit.
Yep.
And I also applaud ESPN for not showing replays. I do have to give them that, because in today's society, some things that are common sense seem to sometimes escape people. And but I do applaud ESPN for showing decorum in that, in realizing the gravity of the situation and not showing the replays constantly of what happened. So I did not see it. I only heard what happened after the fact. I was disturbed and I was shocked, and I sat there and watched the entire coverage because I was hoping for an update on his condition. That was the main thing. When people said that, obviously I did see the ambulance leaving the field. And when people said, though, that they had to administer CPR, and I did not realize for how long they had to do that.
Well, not only did they have to do CPR, but they also had to use the defibrillator too to shock his heart. That was a scary part right there.
Yeah. And I remember, and I think it was Scott Van Pelt who said, he said on Sports Center, he said, I've watched a lot of sporting events over the years. And he said, immediately I saw the speed with which the medical staff was moving. And he said, I said to myself, something different is going on. This is bad.
Yeah.
So, first and foremost, it seems to be some positive reports coming out that he's improving, and we can only hope that he continues to go in this direction. I will confess, I did not know much about Damar before this happened to him, unfortunately, but by all accounts, he seems to just be a wonderful teammate, a wonderful person. Mike Tomlin came out and said some very great remarks about the kind of person he was, and that he's known Damar since, I think he said he was 12 years old, and he's watched him grow up, and everybody's pulling for him. 24 is, I mean, this is shocking to have happened to begin with, and he's battling for his life right now, and I hope he continues to go in the right direction. But I was just shocked and constantly hoping for an update. What was your initial reaction?
Well, like you, I'm glad I didn't see what happened, because it sounded like it's from every indication, it sounded as shocking. It looked as shocking as what we could imagine, which is very tough. And you figure an injury in football, it's gonna, especially for a catastrophic injury, it's gonna take a while for the medical staff to get ready. Not to get ready, but to get on the field. And but once you saw the ambulance come out, you kind of knew something different was happening.
Mm-hmm.
I only
Yeah.
saw the pictures of the ambulance. I tuned in very, very late because I was um working on something else. I was working on something for Tuesday, which is why we're recording tonight as going on our usual Tuesday nights. But I tuned in very, very late, and just as I'm tuning in, they call the NFL postponed the game. Thus, they're going to suspend it and discontinue it because I saw that. Because I got the notification on my phone. And it says the game has been suspended. I'm like, suspended.
Yeah.
Okay, so it had to be weather. It has to be something like weather related or some yokels on the field running around. But nope, it was completely unexpected. We'll see what happened. And you see the hot takes from people online on social media.
Really.
I'm not sure if you've heard a lot of this nonsense here. So people are want the NFL to continue the game.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't because
Yeah. There were,
if you were a player or a coach or anybody who was on the staff, you did not want to continue after witnessing what just happened between
no.
a man getting CPR and defibrillated on the field during it before. I'm not playing. If that was me, I'm not playing the game.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no way. And initially, and there's been a lot that's come out since. But initially, there was talk that Joe Buck had said they are thinking of resuming this game, and you see Joe Burrow warming up and things of that nature. And at that time, when I saw Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor, and I applaud them both
Yeah,
for trying to handle this situation. But when I saw them come together, what it looked like to me was that perhaps the NFL was thinking of resuming the game, and it looked like both the coaches said, and
yeah,
initially, that's what I thought happened. There's been other things that have come out now that Zach Taylor has come out and said that Sean McDermott came and told him, I have to be at the hospital for Damar. I can't coach this game right now. The last thing I should be doing is coaching. And Zach Taylor agreed.
yep,
And it just shows that that these men and these players and these teammates are human. Their
yeah,
their first concern was Damar's well-being, as it should be. Anybody that was concerned about the football game resuming, or whether they're going to play it again at a later date, or how it's going to impact the schedule, none of that matters. None
no,
of that matters. And if I'm a Bengals player or a Bills player, I don't think I could resume that game at any point. But
no.
no matter where, I think they should just let that game not be played. Um, I mean, but yeah, the people that were coming out, I've really only heard of some of the blowback on. A lot of people are angry with Skip Bayless, and
Well,
I think that's a little rush to judgment based on some of his past things that he said. I don't think it was as demonic as people made it out to be. I think he might have just been asking a question, but still, perhaps people didn't know the gravity of the situation at that point. But yeah, there's been some people that wanted the game to resume and were angry that it didn't, have completely lost the plot.
yeah. I mean, from what I understand, that one tweet that Skip
Yeah,
Bayless had that set the whole world ablaze
yeah,
was a series of tweets that he had, just kind of rambling thoughts about the game.
yeah,
Because at first, I guess his first tweet before he sent that one out was oh my, something's going on in Cincinnati.
yeah.
Then he said, well, what are the implications? Basically, what are the implications? And then half hour later, he came out and said, we've been praying for Damar. We hope
Mhm.
everything works out.
Yeah,
But then there's this, and I hate. Listen, I have a general rule when it comes to this kind of stuff, when
yeah,
about social media and all that, and commentators and whatnot. My general rule is don't give the idiots more air than they're sucking up already.
yeah.
And but perhaps the hottest take from all this, and I mean this in a derogatory sense, was Bart Scott blaming T. Higgins
Oh, that T.
for
Higgins had
what
nothing to
happened.
do with this.
No, he
I had
did
not
not.
I had not heard of that. And I heard, of all the good that's come out of this, both Cincinnati fans and Buffalo fans showing
Yes.
big support for
Mm-hmm.
DeMar's charity receiving a ton of donations, all the teams coming out in the NFL and saying pray for DeMar. I forget who it was, but somebody said, and I agreed with it. It said, in all your prayers for DeMar and his family, throw a couple in for T. Higgins too. He's crushed.
Absolutely.
He's crushed that this happened. He
Mm-hmm.
had nothing to do with it. I, you know, I had not heard what Bart Scott said or did, but man, I just that is unbelievable. How can you blame anyone for
It's
this?
very callous.
Mm.
And here's the thing with football. I've played football. I have friends who've played football. Football is a very dangerous sport. It's a collision. It's not. Somebody said it wisely a long time ago. I don't know if it was Dick Butkus or some football player who said it back in the day. Football is not a contact sport. It is a collision sport.
Mm.
Stuff like this happens a lot. You're going to have heavy collisions because these are
Yeah.
guys who are very fast, faster than previous generations, who
Oh,
are
of
coming, who are
course.
hitting each other like two cars at an oncoming collision. So, and again, it's Bart Scott. I respect him. He was a former New York Jet. He was there for the 2 years. They got to the AFC Championship, but that was just a dumb take.
Oh
It's a
yeah,
dumb
yeah,
take because, again, like you said, Dustin, T. Higgins has probably been through enough as it is, and there's
yeah.
people there's dirt bags out there, and pardon my English for calling them that, but there's dirt bags out there who blame him. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
he should have never, he should have never did what he did. It was like, how can you help? It's a
No,
football play. It's a
this is
football
a
play. These guys are taking their lives into their hands every single
yes.
game.
And from what I understand, and I am no expert, believe me. So if anybody wants to tweet at me and say, "Hey, you're wrong about this," after the show, have at it. I welcome to be educated. But from what I understand, this was a bang bang timing thing that probably had to happen at the exact right moment. It's similar, from what I understand, and this is what I could be totally wrong about, but to something that happened with a lacrosse player a few years ago. He was hit in the chest with a lacrosse ball, and
Yep.
it was between heartbeats, and unfortunately, if I'm remembering everything right, I think that gentleman unfortunately passed away because of, and as a result of that, they have new pads now that are required in lacrosse to prevent this from happening. So from my vague understanding of everything, this was something similar to that, where he had to be
Yep.
hit in the exact right spot at the exact right time for this to happen. T. Higgins, or he had to be impacted because he made the hit on T. Higgins, but there was no T. Higgins has no fault in this. Obviously, DeMar has no fault in this.
No.
No player expects something like this to happen in a game. They
Yeah.
know what they're signing up for, and they know they have to come to terms with certain things in their head, because if you play the game tentatively, you're probably going to get hurt. So
Yeah.
they have to be in a mental space where they're prepared for certain things to happen, but
Yeah.
nobody is prepared or expects this heading into
No.
the game. Bart Scott, that is one of the most idiotic things I've ever heard.
Yeah, and the thing is with the sternum when it comes to football pads, there's not a whole lot of protection here. It's probably the width of the cell phone
Mhm.
that the padding is, but I have a
Yeah,
feeling that there's
yeah.
going to be
It's gonna be some.
companies out there that are going to be trying to improve technology, improve the padding that can take impact. And the condition that was, and you were right, there was a lacrosse player who passed away in 2004, who was struck on the chest. He died from commotio. It's condition, not a condition, but the term is commotio cordis. When basically you take a blunt force trauma right to the sternum, and like you said, it's in between heartbeats. So yeah, we're hoping for the best for DeMar Hamlin. According to reports, he's steadily improving. His dependence on oxygen is steadily decreasing. He was 100% when he was in the hospital, but it's now down to 50%, which is actually a good thing.
Yes.
Because that means he's improving and his vital signs are apparently stable. He is still sedated in intensive care. So, both Dustin and I, we're both he's in our thoughts and our prayers. And from what I understand, he had a GoFundMe campaign where he was trying to raise $2,500 for a local charity and a daycare center to buy toys for that daycare center in native Pittsburgh. I believe right now, I'll double check. It was at last count like $4.5 million.
Yeah, I knew that people were donating a lot. It's just to see people come together. It's sad that it took something like this, but first and foremost, I hope he continues to improve, and if some sort of good can come out of this, it's things like that, that can help.
Yeah, it's actually I just looked at the website. It's now $6.75 million.
Wow.
And what's funny is that I would say funny, but I say good on him. The wrestler Chris Jericho, he actually donated twice. He donated $5,000 twice.
Oh,
but
wow.
the first time he donated, it was as Crus Jericho, CHRUS Jericho. So the GOAT, the Chris Jericho, the GOAT, we acknowledge you as the GOAT. Thank you. It was awesome that you donated, and the fact that you misspelled your name the first time was actually hysterical. So
yeah, he's man, I remember, not to get down the wrestling rabbit hole. There's another podcast on this network for that. But
yes, there is. Main event marks. Go check it out.
Yeah, but Chris Jericho, I remember when he had the feud with Dean Malenko in WCW, and Dean Malenko was the man of 1,000 holds, and then Chris Jericho came out
paper.
The list, and he was the man of 1,001 holds, and like 4 of them were armbar. He just kept. I
Number 567 armbar. Well, we'll keep it a little light around here, but we appreciate the people we appreciate the wrestlers like just Chris Jericho. We're old school when it comes to that stuff, but he's still wrestling too. So good for him I think he's 52 years old. Good, he's still wrestling. Good for him. Sting, however, is like 65 and he's still wrestling.
I know. Oh man.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the NFL Week 17. We're gonna talk about the rest of the week in the NFL. We've had some, and Monday night was a big to do, but and thankfully things are improving for Damar Hamlin. But we're gonna go over to Week 17. We're gonna talk about our biggest upset. First off, as we usually do, we talk about the first thing we usually talk about is the biggest upset. And Dustin, I'm gonna hand it over to you. I think we're on the same page in the terms of the biggest upset. Upset of the Week 17 for the for you.
We are on the same page for this one. It's got to be the Saints Eagles. Raiders Niners was in contention there for a little bit, but
it was indeed.
It is indeed the Saints Eagles. I was shocked to see this score. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that the Saints. I mean, the Saints defense. We know that the Saints defense they have some players on defense, and they're a sneaky good defense. The Saints issue has been, to me, it's been twofold this year. Obviously, they need a quarterback, but also, if you notice, Alvin Kamara has not been Alvin Kamara this year. He has, by his standards, struggled a bit. So without that, I was even more shocked that the Saints were able to pull this off against, and I understand that Jalen Hurts was not in there. I know Eagles fans are going to be saying, well, our number one guy, he wasn't there. But still, in my opinion, your number two is good enough to beat the Saints with the weapons he has around him. And don't get me wrong, AJ Brown, he had that long touchdown. They still got some touchdowns in, but the Saints defense bent, but they didn't break, and they were able to hold the Eagles down a little bit, and they picked off Gardner Minshew. If memory serves, was Was it 2 INTs? I'm trying to
One
remember.
of the Marshawn Lattimore had a pick six that basically sealed the game for the
Yeah.
Saints.
Yeah, Marshawn Lattimore, he's one of the best. He's one of the best corners in the game.
Yep.
Um, and I know we got some good young corners. I mean, Sauce is probably number one right now. We got. I'm gonna keep banging the Tariq Woolen drum. I'm gonna keep doing it. And then I don't. This particular guy talks a little too much for my taste. But Jalen Ramsey, you got some good corners, and I would say Marshawn Lattimore for me, he's either 1 or 1A in the league. He's very good.
Yeah. And for me, it was also Saints Eagles over the Eagles. Saints were playing like a desperate team because they still had coming into the game. They
Yeah,
had
they
a
had the
very,
playoff hopes.
very small chance of winning the NFC South, and I had made a bold prediction that the Carolina Panthers were going to take the division. Unfortunately, it's not going to be the case because they could not contain Mike Evans last week.
Oh
And
wow,
my
what a game!
condolences to every fantasy football owner who got Mike Evans last week. I was
Yeah,
not one of them. Thank
yeah,
you. But
yeah,
I was. But yeah, the Saints played like a desperate team. The Eagles did not because the
yeah,
Eagles were. If the Eagles had won, they would clinch the number one seed in the NFC. In the NFC, they would hold home field advantage for the playoffs.
mhm.
Now they come into a game next week where it's an absolute must win to keep home field advantage. But you're playing a team that you destroyed 5 weeks ago in the Giants, who clinched their playoff spot.
Yes, they did.
And we discussed this on Snowman in the Morning on Monday. One of the co-hosts, I think it was either Cole or Playmaker, who said that the Giants were going to be resting some of their stars. I said, no, they aren't. They have long memories of that game from 5 weeks ago
Mhm.
when they lost 48-22 in a game that the Giants were looking like they were not going to make the playoffs. But
Yeah.
the Giants rallied. They destroyed the Colts like they should have.
Yes.
And Philly is now still kind of paddling water up until week 18. And it's supposedly Jamal
Jalen.
Hurts is Jalen Hurts, excuse me,
Yep. Yep.
is going to come back this week to try to win the game to try to clinch first place for the Eagles. I think the Giants are going to shock a lot of people. I think the Giants are going to win that game. Just based on the fact that the Eagles, I don't know what's going on with them. They looked like world beaters
Mhm.
up to about 3 weeks ago. In the last 2 weeks, they have looked mortal.
You know what? To throw it back a little bit to last Tuesday, if you tuned in for the football roundtable, to me this bolsters Jalen Hurts' MVP case more
Yeah,
because people were arguing, oh, anybody could go in with those weapons and win. And listen, Gardner Minshew, we all love him. He's no slouch. We remember what he
Uncle
did in
Rico.
Jacksonville.
Yeah,
But clearly, Jalen Hurts is a big part of why that team has looked so good.
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's why he deserves the MVP a lot more than some people say. Patrick Mahomes might probably deserves it. I'm certainly sure for maybe for AFC or Offensive Player of the Year, but in my mind, Jalen Hurts is still the MVP because he's the most valuable player to this team, and we've
Yeah,
seen it over the last 2 weeks.
he makes them go.
He does. He does. All right, we're going to move on to the next topic of discussion. As always, our biggest disappointment. Dustin, I'm going to let you go first because I'm probably going to go on an unhinged rant about my biggest
All
disappointment. You
right.
probably know what it is already.
I do, but I'll keep mine short. And let me just reiterate, because it's been a theme for a running number of weeks now. Ryan's making predictions. Half of them are coming true. Half of them are not. I'm still scared of the Powers. The Jaguars are alive, and it's looking better than ever. But the Vikings, I don't hate the Vikings, but they are my biggest disappointment this week. If you specifically, Kirk Cousins throws 3 interceptions. If you want to be considered an elite team in the NFL, you cannot get waxed by a Packers team that scores 41 points on you. A lot of those defensively, by the way. Uh, and I mean, obviously, Aaron Rodgers, he went in, he did his thing. You got to give him credit. I don't know whether it's the ayahuasca, but he said, "Hey, I'm going to play as long as we still have a chance." And he has. He has. They've looked better, but the Vikings, in my opinion, they should have won that game. That's a game that you have to have. It's a
That's a
division.
winnable game.
Yes, and it's a divisional opponent. It's an opponent that you kept alive in the playoffs by not winning this game. You it just they laid an absolute egg. And I know there's going to be Vikings fans that come to me and say, look at their record, look at their record. They're an elite team. And I'm going to say, look, love Dalvin Cook. You got one of the best receivers in the game, but your defense is horrible. You got that point differential. You had 10 wins with a negative point differential. That doesn't happen. You had one of the craziest finishes against the Bills like that I remember in recent memory to pull that game out. Yeah, there's just a lot of things. And the Jets, let's say what it is. The Jets took the Vikings to their limit.
They should have beat the Vikings.
Yeah, the Vikings are my biggest disappointment because, like I said, I want to see them do well. As a Seahawks fan who remembers what it was like to be one of the only teams in the NFL without a Super Bowl, the Vikings have gone to the Super Bowl, but it's been a long time and they've had heartbreaking losses, and I don't want to dredge them up, but I want to see the Vikings do well, and they seem to be kind of spinning their wheels at the absolute wrong time. I said on the Football Roundtable show that the Bengals were getting hot at the right time.
Yep.
Minnesota is the opposite of that. They are spinning their wheels, and that defense is bad.
This is the worst 12-4 team I have probably ever seen.
Thank
you could argue last year's was it 2020 or 2021's Pittsburgh Steelers that started the year 10-0, 11-0, got beat by Washington, and they kind of went on a skid since after that. So I think it was the 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers, the worst
I think it
team
was
ever.
Yes, because was 2020 Ben's last year? I can't remember.
No, last season was Ben's last season.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Because he did. He kind of had that season where you're like, how are they winning games? Like,
yeah.
And that was, so it was 2020, because I remember last year, it became clear that it was Ben Roethlisberger. He was never my favorite player, but I always admitted that he was a great player, but he was far from the player that he was his last. I'd say,
and was always a dependable quarterback in fantasy football. That's for sure.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Well,
but man, that's my biggest disappointment. But now I leave the floor to you, and a theme that is becoming all too common. I'm sorry, Ryan. The floor is yours.
Oh my gosh. Well, at least Tagalong's here to kind of calm my nerves a little bit. What are you doing? Anyway, yep, my New York Jets. You disappoint me. You always seem to find a way to disappoint your fans in old or in this case newer ways, because you had 10 days to prepare for this game. 10 days to figure out how you can beat the Seattle Seahawks. 10 days for the most important game over the last 8 seasons, where you're still alive in the playoffs coming into this game. And yet, you didn't show up. You scored 6 points. You have scored no touchdowns over the last 8 quarters against teams who, no offense, Dustin. I mean, I know you love your Seahawks, and congratulations for winning the no credentials required derby between our teams. But this is a team you should have scored at least 1 touchdown against. Same with Jacksonville. But this is what happens when you don't have a franchise quarterback. This is what happens when you have a guy who, sure, he might say I probably deserve to be the number 1 pick, a number 1 pick for somebody in 2018 draft or whatnot. But at the same time, it looks like he's still hurt.
Yeah.
And I've had this theory about Zach Wilson. I think his knee is still bothering him. This is 4 quarterbacks the Jets have played this season.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I understand Mike White gave you your best chance to win.
Yeah.
But you didn't. And now for the 12th straight season, you're out of contention for the playoffs. And this season, you could have shocked the world by going to the playoffs. You could have shocked the world and with the world-class defense that you have. But your world-class defense didn't look like a world-class defense against the Seahawks. You got run over for almost 200 rushing yards. Also, the offense had no game plan. No game plan whatsoever. Because they couldn't run the ball again. And the passing, Mike White's passes looked like Zach Wilson's for a short span of time. So the New York Jets, you got a lot to figure out in the offseason. Defense, don't change a thing.
Yeah, you're building.
Don't change a thing. Although I would say there's two things you need to do on the defense. Restructure CJ Mosley's contract because it's too rich for a guy who's obviously looking like he could be the captain of the team, but at the same time, you could see his speed starting to decrease. He can't cover running backs or tight ends like he used to. So take some of that money you can take from restructuring his contract, give it to Quillian Williams, give him the bag. Or I have a feeling they're going to franchise him. Either way, pay the man. He deserves it. He's having an all-pro type season. On offense, you got a lot to do on the offensive line, which looked horrible against the Seahawks, against the Jaguars especially, and against the Lions. And figure out what's going on at quarterback. I wrote an article before the game on New Year's Eve about how the Jets could work their way to possibly acquiring Derek Carr.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
But both Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh have come out this week and say, "Yep, we believe in Zach Wilson. We believe in Zach Wilson." They become as us Jets fans have come to name these people as Zach Wilson truthers. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, he's a developmental quarterback, but he still does a lot of things wrong that he did last year. And this year he was supposed to take the leap. And I don't know if there was the injury in preseason, the non-contact injury that kind of set him back or what, but you got to do something about the quarterback position. And Joe Douglas, you have been a masterful at at fleecing other teams, Seahawks included. But
yeah, don't get me started.
Also, thanks to the loss, Jamal Adams reemerged on social media to troll his former team.
Yeah,
like, listen,
no,
dude, you weren't playing. Sit down.
Yeah,
you didn't make any contributions in that game because you weren't even playing. Sit down.
Yeah, his tenure as a Seahawk has been. Seahawk fans have been bitterly disappointed by that trade, and I understand injuries happen and things happen, but even before that, the brief time that he was playing, I think he had a stretch of like the first 3 games when he came over from the Jets after acrimoniously forcing his way out. He played really well. But then after that, injuries piled up and things but the thing is, when you can't chirp when you're hurt. And not to interrupt, I will cede to you again, but this game I thought was going to be a better game. I thought it was going to be more competitive because my Seahawks after a surprising start, surprising everyone, including me, they've been a bit of a wounded animal. Their defense has been not great the last few games, and they really haven't been able to run the ball either. So as a result, Geno's forcing more throws, and that is not a good recipe. And we didn't have Tyler Lockett for this game, arguably our best receiver, and I would go so far as to say best offensive weapon. He runs some of the most precise routes I've seen in the NFL. I will continue to say, and I think Tyler Lockett is underrated as a player because he plays in the Pacific Northwest and not a lot of people see his games. But this was a game that I thought the Jets could show up for, but I'm with you. I think Mike White is still hurt, and I take my hat off to him for trying to come back. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, you can't win a game if you're I mean, listen, the defense did its job. Sauce Gardner did his job. DJ Reed did his job. They're the best. I'm gonna come out and say it. That's the best corner tandem in the NFL right now. DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner. They held DK Metcalf to 1 catch for 3 yards.
Yeah.
You still lost by 2 scores. So you could, and I get it. Robert Saleh is a positive dude. You can do the positive stuff all you want, but eventually you're gonna have to face facts. And I think next year is gonna be the mandate is playoffs. It's playoffs or bust. Joe Douglas's job's on the line. It's year 5. Rebuilds should not take 5 years. And this is Robert Saleh's third year.
Oh, yeah.
They could both be gone if the Jets don't perform. If the Jets don't make the playoffs next year, they're both gone. So their jobs are on the line, basically. So yeah, New York Jets. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed, as you can see from the byline below. My biggest disappointment for Week 17. But we're gonna move on to much more positive things. One of them being the most entertaining game. And I'm going to take this one. And I think we're going to be on the same page here, Dustin.
Yeah.
49ers Raiders. Wow. What a game. What a game.
Yeah. To me, it was far and away the pick this week for both. For obvious reasons.
Yeah. So the Raiders coming in, Derek Carr gets benched. His tenure as a Raider is pretty much over. Whether they trade him or cut him, either way, he's probably going to be gone from Las Vegas. But they put in Jarrett Stidham, who was supposed to be the heir apparent to Tom Brady in New England. That didn't work out. But he finally gets his first start in the NFL in his career, and he balls out. He balls out and has 365 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 2 of them to Devontae Adams. Had a great game. And even though their record shows that they're not very good and San Francisco's is very good, they took the hottest team in the NFL and took them to the limit. They took them into overtime. And to me, that just spells excitement right there, because it's not only that, but it's also a high scoring game.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
34-34 at the end of the regulation.
Yeah.
And that's just that spells fun for me.
It was. And I started, and unlike most Seahawk fans, I don't hate the Niners. I don't love them, but I don't hate them. And they are a division rival, and I always want to beat the Niners. But I started rooting for the Raiders like a crazy person in this game, because you couldn't help it. You're like, oh my God, they're going to do this. They're going to, some of the throws that Jarrett Stidham was making, pardon the expression, but they were ballsy throws. He was letting it out there. He was playing with confidence. Devontae Adams, a lot of people wondered, they were like, oh, is Adams going to sulk now that his best friend is benched? And it's the whole reason that he came to the Raiders is the connection that he had with Derek Carr. He was playing his heart out for Jarrett Stidham. 153 yards at the end of regulation, 2 touchdowns. That crazy 45-yard grab that he made, where he got under the ball, snagged it with one hand. Whoever was covering him on the Niners was doing a great job covering him, but you can't do anything about a catch like that. And to Stidham's credit, he put it exactly where only Devontae could get it. And he was making these tight throws. He's doing all these things. And I was rooting for him. And he far and away had the most surprising performance. The stat that blew me away that I heard on Red Zone when I was watching the game, they said that Jarrett Stidham is the first quarterback this season to score points against the Niners defense in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. No other team had done that this entire season, and the Las Vegas Raiders do it to tie the game. And then Robbie Gould misses that field goal, and it sends the game to overtime. I was rejoicing because we were going to get more football.
Free football, baby.
Now, obviously Jarrett Stidham did throw the pick in overtime, and it allowed the Niners to, they got a chip shot field goal for the win, but they squeaked by. What a game this was. I was on the edge of my seat, and the whole time I'm thinking, are the Raiders going to do this?
Yeah. I mean, I had in the Godzilla Media League, I had San Francisco's defense active, and I was worried for a little bit, but and they got that extra turnover in overtime. I'm like, all right, we're doing all right. So, oh, by the way, I am the official. I believe as of last night, I am the official winner of this year's Godzilla Media League. So,
Oh, congratulations, sir.
yeah, even with we listen, Levac had Josh Allen in his lineup. I had uh, Joe Burrow and Tyler Knox in my lineup,
Oh,
and
man.
I had scored before the whole everything went down. Damar Hamlin,
Yeah.
I was up. So I don't know how it's going to finish, but we got a text message last night that guy said, "I'm just going to declare a co-winner," and I made a joke. I'm like, "Are we going to share the belt? Like, am I going to get custody of it? Because I want to wear it to church." Levac said, "Look, listen, I want to win it. If I want to win it outright, Ryan was ahead. Ryan wins the league." And I'm like,
All
"Wow,
right.
oh, thanks, Levac. That's very, very gracious of you." So yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
I am the 2021 Godzilla Media Fantasy Football Champion.
Well, congratulations, and I hope to see an appearance by the belt on a future show.
Oh, you will. Oh, you will. You will, my friend. All right, we're gonna come back in just a moment with our most noble performance, the hottest individual take of the week, and the updated NFL playoff picture. But first, this word from our friends at Invader Coffee. This episode of No Credentials Required is brought to you by Invader Coffee. For the coffee lover who wants good, quality coffee with no bullshit and no filler, Invader Coffee is an ultra-premium, veteran-owned coffee company proudly delivering only the best coffee your hard-earned money can buy. They aim to only serve the highest quality, organic, air-roasted coffee beans sourced from free trade farms all over the world. They keep things simple. The best coffee at an affordable price in order to provide you with the value you deserve for your morning boost. 100% fair trade, 100% organic coffee beans, 100% air roasted, 100% money back guarantee. Visit invadercoffee.com, enter promo code BELLYUP at checkout, and receive 15% off your order. That's right, folks. Get yourself some premium quality coffee. Link is in the description. Our affiliate link is in the description. You're helping the show by not only clicking the link and using our affiliate page, but you're also saving some money using belly up in the comment in the in the promo code as a promo code. Thank you, Dustin. As a promo code, and you save yourself $15 off your order. Get yourself some premium coffee. I'm almost out of my. I'm down to I think my last couple of scoops of Bad Santa, and they still have it. They still have it on their website.
Gonna re-up?
I'm gonna re-up, get some more Bad Santa. I'm actually gonna try the Jolly Java too. I didn't get a chance to try that. I'm not sure if you've tried that yet, Dustin. But
I have. It was part of my holiday, the holiday box that they had. I've enjoyed that so far. I haven't opened the Bad Santa yet. I opened the Jolly Java and I opened the Snickerdoodle flavor.
Cookie Crumble.
Cookie Crumble. I don't know why the name escapes me, but they got the abominable snowman on the bag. It's great.
They do.
But yeah, the Jolly Java I enjoyed as well. It's very good.
All right. So I'm going to get myself some Invader coffee because I'm almost out. But again, links in the description on both the Facebook page and on the YouTube link. And again, use promo code BELLYUP, get 15% off your order. Get yourself some coffee and you help the show. All right, so we're moving on. Week 17's most notable performance. As I mentioned, Jarrett Stidham, first NFL start, 23 of 34, 365 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, one of them being, I would arguably say that led to the dagger of the Raiders upset bid not happening, but still, what a performance.
Yeah.
What a performance.
He was my pick for exactly I wrote down the same stats in my black notebook here that I have with me when I'm watching the games. And if people see me taking the notes, they probably feel like I'm Russell Crowe from Beautiful Mind, just scrambling stuff.
Steve says, hey.
Hey, what's going
Thanks,
on?
Steve. Appreciate you watching.
But yeah, Jarrett Stidham is my pick as well. To me, he was there were some players that did some great things this week, but Jarrett Stidham was the pick for me. He really exceeded expectations in every possible way. And let me just say that he is, by this performance, he is the best Belichick drafted backup for Brady, to my knowledge, because let me tell you, with the exception of Brian Hoyer, the record hasn't been too great. A lot of those New England backups See that Matt Castle, some of that Bill Belichick magic. Anybody remember Ryan Mallett? I
Yeah.
do. Supposedly a real rocket scientist once walked into a final and said out loud, "Who's got a Scantron for Ryan Mallett?" Real scholar, that one.
Yeah, and I guess Mac Jones isn't actually exactly working out too well right now either.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I'm not going to. I should. All right. I rescind my opinion on the post Brady quarterbacks. Mac Jones. It's too early. It's too early.
True. Well, I guess when you have Matt Patricia and Joe Judge sharing the play calls, it's a little
That
squiffy.
three-headed monster.
Three-headed monster of play callers. Ugh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah.
I actually know somebody who said the Pats are going to beat the Bills by 14 this week.
I don't.
No.
I don't think so.
If you don't think the Bills are going to come out swinging on Sunday after what happened on Monday, you must be outside your mind if you don't think they're not going to come out swinging.
Yeah. I mean, if the Bills decide to play, because apparently the Players Association said and the NFL have said that they're going to let Sean McDermott and the Bills players dictate their comfort level with the NFL schedule. But yeah, the Bills, if they decide, if they're playing, if that game happens, they are going to be motivated.
Yep. They're not only going to be motivated to win that game and try to get to the number one seed, but they're also going to be motivated to get the Patriots out of the playoff picture.
Yeah.
Speaking of the playoffs and the hot takes, our hottest individual takes from this week. Dustin, I'm going to have you lead off as to what is your hottest individual take from week 17.
All right. Well, regular listeners of the show, Ryan had to do it last week. I have to do it this week. In an earlier show, I said, hey, should Ron Rivera be considered for Coach of the Year? Because he had the guts to switch to Taylor Heineke. I have to rescind that now because guess what he did? He cost his team a playoff spot potentially. Now their grip on the playoffs was tenuous at best, but there's a lot of teams that still have a chance to make the playoffs heading into last week. And my Seahawks need a lot of help to possibly make the playoffs, but hey, they're still in it. They're still in the hunt. But Ron Rivera decided to go back to Carson Wentz. And I don't understand why. If you had the guts to bench him in the first place and put Taylor Heineke in there, and I get Taylor Heineke wasn't exactly lighting up the room, but it has to do with the contract that you gave Carson Wentz in the offseason. That's my only rationale, because they didn't draft Carson Wentz. It's not like the GM and coach are tied to Carson Wentz in any way. He was drafted by the Eagles, not the Commanders. The Commanders didn't invest high draft capital in him, but it's got to be I guess they wanted to see what they had. Maybe they felt like he gave them the best chance to win that game. But to me, in the bits of that game that I saw, the team looked deflated with Carson Wentz in there. They just don't play with the same fire as when Taylor Heineke is in there. Taylor Heineke, for better or worse, is the one that gave you a chance to get in the playoffs. You should have stuck with him. It would have shown real guts. And as a result, Ron Rivera, I know you're watching, shout out. But I have to rescind my Coach of the Year considerations now. You're not going to get the Coach of the Year award from me, because to me, you undid all of the guts that you showed and everything that you're like, you know what? Carson's not performing. We're going to put Taylor Heineke in there. We're going to see what happens. We're going to ride the hot hand.
Well, Carson Wentz broke his finger. That's why Taylor Heineke went in the lineup. Yeah,
that's right. The injury, and he decided to stick with Heineke after Wentz came back. That's right. I stand corrected. So, but Ron Rivera, you cost your team a playoff spot, in my opinion. That team clearly has a different chemistry when Taylor Heineke is in there.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that they were in contention for a playoff spot. They actually were eliminated after that loss to Cleveland. Yeah. and someone asked him about it, and he said, "We were. I didn't know we were in playoff contention." It's like you had to have known.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Either
Unbelievable.
he's being obtruse, or he just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. Which I don't know. And previously, I had given him major props for coaching the team while dealing with the tumult surrounding that organization. I still give him major props for that. I make no bones about it. I just like Ron Rivera as a coach. But to me, this decision baffled me going back
Yeah.
to Wentz. I don't
Yeah.
understand why.
Well, you do have one supporter in the audience, Kevin Wilson from Belly Up Fantasy Sports. He says spot on, Dustin, and yeah, absolutely,
Thank
agreed,
you, sir.
agreed. So my hottest individual take of the week is that if Tennessee loses on Saturday, excuse me, they were playing on Saturday night. This is the game they'll decide the AFC South. If the Tennessee Titans lose on Saturday night, I think Mike Vrabel's out of a job on Black Monday. Because coming into week 11, they were 7-3. They were running away with the AFC South.
Yeah.
Coming into this game, and again, my squirrely prediction might come true.
I know. I'm still afraid. If it happens.
My clairvoyance knows no bounds. But they've gone on a historic slide. I haven't seen a slide like this in a very long time. They have lost 6 in a row. They're sitting at 7-9, one game behind the Jaguars. They could actually still eke out a playoff spot if and only if the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Steelers all lose on Sunday. If they lose, they can still clinch a playoff spot at 7-10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, regardless, if Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans don't win on Saturday, I think he's out of a job on Monday. They've already fired their GM. And I know you can't help it. They have a laundry list of injuries to important positions, wide receiver being one of them, quarterback being one of them, offensive line, defense. They have a laundry list of injuries, but in this industry, in this sport, it's always next man up.
Yes.
You're only as good as the next man up. And I don't know whether there's coaching. I know they've lost quite a few close games. They got beat. They were upset by Texas, the Texans, a couple weeks ago.
Texans, yeah.
But I mean, every single, with the exception of the Philadelphia game and the Jacksonville game that they had a stinker at home, every game has been a close loss. And again, also I forgot. Also against Dallas, they weren't really in that game to begin with either. Anyway, I think Mike Vrabel is going to be out of a job if he loses on Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, you could be right. I liked Mike Vrabel when he first started coaching in Tennessee. But as you astutely pointed out, it is a next man up league because, as I said before, I am no 49ers fan, but look at their injury history in recent years and look at where they finished. They're still competing for an NFC West title or a playoff spot every year. And they've had injuries to, well, even this year, they had injuries to their starting running backs at one point. They lost their quarterback in week 2 of the season. They had Jimmy Garoppolo come in, and then he goes down. Now you're down to Brock Purdy at quarterback. They've played stretches without what I would argue is their leading wide receiver in Deebo Samuel.
Yep.
And it just, Kyle Shanahan has that team winning throughout it all. And over the past couple of years, they've had as many injuries as anybody. So you can't just hang your hat on we had a lot of injuries, in this league, it is next man up.
Yeah. And the fact that the 49ers had one of the best defenses in the NFL, arguably the best defense in the NFL.
Yes.
It helps. Having them in the spot, it does help. But Yeah, Mike Berlin. I'm going to address Mike Berlin's contract from Craft Brewed Sports. Mike, thanks for watching. I appreciate you. He says, I think the injuries is the only thing that buys him one more year. Possibly,
Mhm.
but again, they fired their GM at the beginning of December, which tells me, which is an indicator. It tells me that Mike Vrabel's next, and like I said, it's next. It's a next man up league. You have to perform, and they didn't perform this year. They didn't perform. They stuck in a rookie quarterback who, I believe, in the Kansas City game, he had the least amount of yards ever for a starting quarterback in a game for a rookie. So, and the fact that the defense kept them in the game was amazing. But yeah,
Yes.
it's a next man up league. And I don't know if Mike Vrabel has lost the room when it comes to his message, because you can't be on this historic of a slide and still want to play week after week.
Yeah. It's got to
It's a
be.
demotivator. It's the 6 losses in a row is not exactly the best motivator. Sure, I mean, getting paid, yeah, but that's a big
Yeah.
motivator. You're still getting paid, but at the same time, you want to win and get paid.
Yeah. And
And
I
on that
know.
kind of a slide out of first place, it's most coaches don't survive that kind of a slide.
Hmm. Yeah.
Regardless of injuries or poor play, you don't survive. You don't survive a 6-game losing streak, potentially 7-game losing streak.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're 100% right about the demotivating factor. I mean, to me, to me, I mean, obviously we're a football show, but I always thought the baseball season, if you're playing like all those years when the Orioles were just, you knew they weren't going
A
to have
dog's
a,
breakfast.
yeah, you knew they weren't going to have a chance to compete in the AL East, in, coming out of spring training. Imagine being on the Baltimore Orioles in a game in like July 10th, and you're and you still got like a couple months left of the season, and you're just, I get it. They get paid to play a game, and they don't have to really work or whatever, but they're playing sports because they want to win. The money
Yep.
is a motivating factor, but they're playing sports because they love the game and they want to win and they're competitive.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just,
Yeah. So,
it's
and
got to be tough.
coming back to your baseball analogy, look what happened with the Philadelphia Phillies last year. They fired Joe Girardi at the end of May.
Hmm.
They go on a tear in September, and they go all the way to the World Series.
Oh yeah,
So, and with Robbie Thompson.
yeah.
So,
His
and
who's
he earned himself a contract too
mhm.
after that run.
That's still one
So
of the most shocking runs, because I remember,
yeah,
dismissing the Phillies mentally, because I play fantasy baseball. I don't follow baseball the way I used to, partially because of the sheer volume of games, and also I'm a Yankee fan. If I feel like watching the Yankees, I can turn it on any time. I'm much more passionate about my Seahawks because the season is shorter, and also
mhm.
I don't get to see their games as much, so it matters to me a little more. But I mentally dismissed the Phillies in May after that Girardi firing. I was like, well, they're going to be continuing to rebuild, and now they have to do it under a new regime. And then, I checked the records like near the trade deadline, and I'm like, what the hell happened? It's one of those one of those things.
Yeah, it was baseball's coming up. Spring training is going to be next month. Pitchers and catchers report in, I think, 6 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, we'll like do some baseball maybe this season. We'll pay some more attention to it. But we're going to move on, and we're going to close up the show this week by going to our updated for now NFL playoff and draft picture. So let's start
Ooh,
off with the playoffs, and here's where we are in terms of the playoffs.
playoffs.
Playoffs right now. In the American and the AFC, you have the Chiefs in first, and as a number one overall seed. Uh, Buffalo, followed by Buffalo, Cincinnati. Jacksonville currently sits at the 4 seed as the leader in the AFC South. Then you have our 2 wild cards already clinched with the Chargers and the Ravens. Chargers have the 5 seed Ravens had the 6th seed. 7th seed still up for grabs. And actually, I was wrong about the Tennessee Titans making the playoffs. My bad on that.
Oh,
But you have 3 teams that could potentially make their way in. New England currently sits in the 7th spot, followed by Miami, followed by Pittsburgh. If New England wins on Sunday, which I doubt, they need to win, or they need Pittsburgh and Miami to lose,
yeah.
or they need both those teams to lose, and they get in the playoff based on uh, tiebreakers. Dolphins win, they're in if New England loses. Pittsburgh needs both Miami and New England to lose, and they need to beat Cleveland in order to sneak into the playoffs, which I didn't see this coming.
No, no.
I did not see this coming.
I got to take my hat off to Mike Tomlin. The Steelers are not my favorite team because of one Super Bowl game, and yes, I am still bitter about it. I felt that was the Jerome Bettis retirement gift was the referees in that game, and Mike Holmgren apparently said to one of the refs before that game, "I hope the game's not too big for you." Why did you do that, Mike Holmgren? Why did you do that? But anyway, got to take my hat off to Mike Tomlin. I wrote off the Steelers immediately, and I'm just like, this is not their year. And the fact that he has them with even an outside chance of making the playoffs, I think speaks volume to their defense, speaks volume to his coaching style, speaks volume to that he inspires his players to play. They do have some young talent. They've got the Pickett to Pickens connection, or maybe
Yep.
I have it reversed. I always get those two crossed.
No,
up.
you were right. You were right.
But yeah, I did not see this coming either.
No, and which is funny, if they do lose, if Cleveland does beat them on Sunday, that will be Mike Tomlin's first losing record.
Yeah,
as an NFL head coach. So yeah, lots happening, and we don't know what's going to happen. The Cincinnati, the 2 and 3 is still in the air. We don't know who's going to be 2 and who's going to be 3. We don't know what the situation is. If it's going to be called, if they're going to resume that game like on a Wednesday, like after the season ends. We don't know if it's going to be called a no contest. We don't know if it's going to be 7-3 Cincinnati. If it's going to be the game being called. We don't know what the situation is right now because of DeMar Hamlin. So, I mean, to me, if they call it a no contest, Buffalo is definitely, that game won't count. It won't count in the standings, and Buffalo will be the 2 seed with Cincinnati being the 3 seed. But whoever wins the 7 seed, your reward is playing either Buffalo or Cincinnati, depending on what happens with this with the results. So. I don't envy who's going to be in the 7th seed. That's for sure.
No.
All right, so we're going to move on to the NFC current status. We have Philadelphia. It's the 1 seed, 13-3. San Francisco and Minnesota right behind them. Actually, San Francisco's a 2 seed right now based on winning percentage in conference games, followed by Tampa Bay as a 4 seed. Dallas at 5, Giants at 6. They've all clinched their playoff tickets. Right now, the 7th seed is currently Seattle. They have the tiebreaker against Detroit, and they have a better winning percentage over Green Bay in terms of, I don't know, this is really strange.
Yeah.
Win tiebreaker over Detroit based on head-to-head. Division tie was initially used to eliminate Green Bay. Detroit wins the tiebreak over Green Bay based on head-to-head percentage. Okay. So coming into right now, I mean, Seattle, I forgot who they play on Sunday, but Detroit and Green Bay Sunday night. Who would have thought you would see Detroit in a primetime situation?
Man, I'm happy about that.
Especially this late in the season, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember. Well, at least the last time, I think Calvin Johnson was still suiting up for him. So It's been a while.
Yep. And Seattle's playing the Rams.
Yes, they are playing the Rams. I just looked it up here. Far be it from me. I should know their schedule backwards and forwards, but hey, can't keep it all up here.
So right now, here's a situation for because even the NFC East is still in the balance too. Because if Dallas beats the Commanders on Sunday and the Eagles lose to the Giants, Dallas, I believe, wins that division.
I believe you're right, because I believe they still have a shot at the title. So yeah.
I think if that happens, I think San Francisco is going to win the 2 seed because they actually have the tie break based on best winning. Sorry, I'm looking at the page right now. San Francisco owns the tiebreaker over Minnesota based on win percentage and conference games. So if San Francisco wins and Minnesota beats Chicago, and Philadelphia loses to the Giants, Dallas might win that division based on them beating Washington. So so it would be San Francisco at the 1 seed as the 1 seed, Minnesota as a 2 seed, Dallas as a 3 seed, Tampa at 4, Philly at 5, Giants at 6, and whoever wins the 7th seed faces either Philadelphia. I think they would face Philadelphia. They would face Philadelphia because Philadelphia beat Minnesota earlier in the year.
Mm-hmm.
So lots to do. This weekend's going to be a crazy weekend in the NFL. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I'm kind of dreading the Rams game, because you look at that and you think, oh, Seattle's going to get this, but the Rams always play Seattle well, even in the years where Seattle was a juggernaut, and and the Rams were not doing so well. The Rams would play out of their minds and give Seattle fits. So I'm just I think I have like PTSD from those. So I'm kind of dreading, and I know, hey, it's an outside shot, but as of like you were saying, right now, if the season ended, they're in. If they if they get in, I will root for them heartily. But man, the game that I'm really going to be watching is that Detroit Green Bay game, because if Detroit somehow makes it in, I will be very happy.
Yeah.
I will just be happy. Much like Detroit's one of those teams, as my uncle once astutely put it. Detroit's one of those teams that has been bad for so long, and you've watched them on Thanksgiving lose on Thanksgiving for so many years, that you just kind of want to see them do well, because they're one of the landmark franchises in the NFL. You want to see Detroit have a stretch where they do well. So I'll be thrilled. I'll be watching that Detroit Green Bay game.
Yep. So now we move over to losers bracket. I mean, the playoff, the draft order. So once the clock strikes midnight, barring anything weird happening this weekend, once the clock strikes midnight on Sunday, February 12th, the Houston Texans will be on the clock at currently they're 2-13-1. If they lose one more game, they'll be guaranteed the top overall spot in the draft order, followed by Chicago. And Dustin, your Seattle Seahawks are the number 3 seed.
Yes, now, thank you, Denver. Thank you.
There are a number of scenarios. I think they're gonna. I think based on draft order projection, I could see them picking C.J. Stroud as their future quarterback. And based on what I saw on Saturday night in the Ohio State Georgia game, you're gonna get a hell of a quarterback.
I hope so.
I would encourage you to watch the Ohio State Georgia highlights. Even though Ohio State lost, CJ Stroud put the Buckeyes on his shoulders. It almost won the game for them. So I would be encouraged just from watching those highlights that you're going to get yourselves, unless Pete Carroll changes somebody's mind up top. I think CJ Stroud is going to be your quarterback in the future. So my opinion, I could be wrong. We'll see what happens come late April in Kansas City.
I'm telling you, if Jacksonville comes back and wins the AFC South, then I'm going to book it. I'm going to say, okay, C.J. Stroud is the future quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks.
Unless Bryce Young somehow messes up on pro day and winds up falling out, it could be one of those two. It could be Bryce Young. It could be C.J. Stroud. It could be one of those two quarterbacks that Seattle's going to take at number 3.
Yeah.
So going on, and this is currently, so we don't know what's going to happen come Sunday. We'll see what happens come Sunday. We'll see if the draft order has changed. So number 4 is Arizona, number 5 Indianapolis, number 6 Detroit, thanks to the LA Rams.
Yeah.
Number 7 Atlanta, number 8 Las Vegas, number 9 Carolina, number 10 Philadelphia, by New Orleans. So great job there, New Orleans. You wanted Chris Olave that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Who in his defense, he looks like he's going to be potentially a star in this league, but still.
you need the right quarterback to throw to him. Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston. That's they're not it. They're not it. Currently at 11 is Tennessee, followed by Houston via Cleveland, then the New York Jets, Washington, and then Washington. So right now that's the top 14. We'll find out who the draft order is for through 18 at the end of Sunday's games. Actually, Miami's pick is forfeited because of the tampering situation with Deshaun Jackson. So they forfeit that pick. So this draft order is going to change, and I'm kind of on a streak here with predictions. I think the Jets will lose on Sunday. And they'll wind up being back in the top 10.
No,
this is because oh my God, they were. I just think about 2 months ago they were 6-3, and now they're might be in the top 10 for the draft again. So it's like, oh my God. But anyway, so that's your updated for now NFL playoff and draft picture. We're gonna wrap things up right now. We're gonna wrap things up for this week, but just want to remind you before we go to go to our social media pages. We're here down below. If you're watching on the visual side, if you're watching on the visual side on replay, thanks for watching. We really do appreciate it. But if you're listening, you can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, and YouTube.com/ at NoCredsREQ. Subscribe on the audio on the podcast side. Subscribe. Megaphone will eventually be our home base, but you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, wherever you have your preferred podcast platform. And while you're there, leave a rating. 5 stars is preferred. And if you leave a review, I might even read it on the air. Dustin, before we close out, got anything else to add?
No, I just enjoyed the show as always, and looking forward to the football on Saturday. I do love these Saturday NFL games. I'm not going to lie. I love having them because then you get to watch football and you don't have to wake up the next day and go to work bleary-eyed because you stayed up till past midnight to watch the Sunday night football game.
I actually wound up requesting the day after the Super Bowl off today at
perfect.
work. Which it's what's funny is that my team lead I send the email to my team lead, and all of a sudden I get a message from my team lead saying, "Ha! I know why you're requesting that day off." I go, "Yep, you read my mind." And I usually take that weekend off anyway, so I just couldn't get Friday. I just couldn't get that Friday off, but I'll get Monday off.
Yeah, that's the important one, you know.
Yes,
that's
absolutely,
the important one.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Thank you for watching or listening to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. As always, we are presented by Belly Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. For Dustin Henry, I'm Ryan McCarthy. We will talk to you next Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern, to go over the final week, we think, of the NFL for the 2022 season.
Good night, everybody.